Hey, happy Sunday. I'm already beginning to start with, oh, I'm going to miss that intro, or I'm going to miss that, or I'm going to miss this. But this is a day of celebrating. Hey there, Marissa. We are celebrating. I was going to get a whole party hat and just really, but I started to become emotional. So, um, hey, y'all. This is oh now I'm gonna cry. Now I really am going to cry. Okay, let me for the very last time introduce myself. Hey, I am Coach Yolanda. This is Mama Meditations. This has been quite a journey, and I'm grateful for all of it. I really am. I just have been sitting and reflecting. Typically, my process for Mama Meditations includes, writing down some notes, putting things on, and I couldn't do anything. Couldn't do any of that. I literally was sitting in gratitude for what I have been able to see in myself and see in others, and recognizing the sacredness of that experience. We all do things on a day-to-day basis that require us to, focus on so many different things, process so many things, and we are not always afforded the opportunity to sit and reflect on what has happened, what we said, what we did. And so to be able to sit and reflect and not judge or critique this experience uh, is really delicious, and I'm grateful for it. And I'm grateful for those of you who are also um, sharing in this experience. I was challenged, and I'm going to always use it that way because I did not want to do it, because if I wanted to do it, I would have been doing it for myself. And I will say that there were times prior to the challenge where I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this, or yeah, I would love to do that, but never really put any action towards it. When I was challenged to go on YouTube and to share my thoughts, to share my work, to share a lot of things that I never thought that I would be sharing in a public space, I did so partially reluctantly, but partially excited that someone was going to push me into doing something that I would not have done on my own. I am grateful that I said yes, even though I tried to talk myself out of it. And I'm grateful for the connections that have been created because of it. And so thank you. Whether you are watching, and this is the last time I'm going to say this, whether you are watching live or the replay, thank you. No matter how you showed up for me, you showed up for yourselves. And that has to be acknowledged and appreciated. And so today, did I even, I don't even know if I did make a banner about completion, and completion in so many different ways. Completion of not just Power24, not just being on this YouTube channel, but really completion of, if I say I wanted to do something, did I do it? And so I want to talk about that today, not just for myself, but for all of us as we are coming towards the end of the year, as we are, figuring out, we're all still figuring out who we are, what we're doing. I do have some notes that I want to refer to, um, because I think it's important for all of us to take a moment, take a breath, and say thank you to this year and all of the experiences, no matter what they look like, no matter how they showed up, no matter what was generated, no matter what it required of you. There is an aspect of gratitude that I sometimes think we think that means that we liked something. Even if something happened this year that you would never want to happen again or never want to happen to your worst enemy, there can be an energy of gratitude in the experience. Not that you wanted it to happen, but because of the lesson you may have learned or what it required you to become. Now, there are some lessons this year that I absolutely would not want anyone to ever experience for themselves that I have experienced. However, when I say I'm grateful for the experience, it's not an invitation. Universe, hear me, please. It is not an invitation for that experience to be replicated, but it is an indication that I see it for what it is now in ways that I may not have saw it while it was happening. Really different perspective. Um, and so I am grateful for everything. There are things that I never want to experience again, but I can say and sit and say, I got through it. It changed me. It showed me what I needed to see. It provided something at the time that I didn't know what was needed. Whatever perspective I can pull out of all of the experiences of this year, I am standing on gratitude because we're here, because I'm here. And I don't even want to say we made it. I don't know if I made it or not. That remains to be seen. But I can say that I am excited about what is coming. When I tell you right before the live started, I was just writing down some of the things that I want to do, that I'm excited about doing. And this level of that. I can't even articulate it, but it felt like that. It was like, okay, okay, okay. All right. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. That is going to unfold. I just posted in the Evolve community that many of my experiences this year contained the energy of that's never going to happen or that's not going to happen. And even those types of declarations where we tell ourselves that things are not going to happen or things are not going to end the way that I think, even in those circumstances, that is a beginning. Sometimes that is the beginning of everything. You saying that it's not going to happen. You acknowledging all of the ways that it's going to go wrong or why it could be the beginning of it actually happening. And we talked about this for those of you who were able to see Marissa's live on Friday. We could have talked forever. Uh, we really could have talked forever. We talked about uncertainty and clarity. And within the uncertainty, within the pursuit of clarity, of course, there is that unknown. But within the unknown, there's also the energy of this is where we start by picking all of that apart. If you didn't acknowledge that something wasn't going to happen, wouldn't also be this acknowledgement that it could possibly happen. You know, it's like A Course in Miracles says the solution to every problem is in the problem. You first have to acknowledge that something is not the way in which you would like for it to be before you get to the way you want it to be. Like there has to be this awareness that comes over you. And so even in the midst of impossible, that can happen. I've never done that before. This seems too big. Even in the midst of that energy, there can be the beginning for all of us. And that's how I'm looking forward to 2025. And so I'm so grateful that you wanted to be here for it, Giselle. Thank you for your support. Even if we had a conversation months ago, weeks ago, trust me, those conversations still live in my spirit. I'm still reminded of interactions that I've had with people that may have happened a year ago, but it stays fresh in my mind when that energy of doubt pops up. It's like, remember that conversation you had with so and so where you talked about the possibility? Don't forget about that. You know, sometimes, again, things get to be so hectic that we're not always mindful that there was a time when we were talking about particular things not happening or we're never going to get there, only to find ourselves in that very place So I'm grateful for all of the times when I said something wasn't going to happen, because I know that there's a part of me that would not allow that to rest in my spirit. We're going to make it happen. So I'm grateful. I am grateful. Marissa, YouTube has required you to release any sense of perfection. Amen to that. Amen to that. Um, YouTube has afforded me the ability to find my voice, and the fact that I can talk. And one of the things that I've been in conversation with people in the past is like, I don't know how you can talk about a particular subject for that amount of time. Like, I would run out of things to say. I will never run out of things to say about things that I love and that I'm excited about. And I'm grateful for that. This is coming from a child who was told repeatedly, you got to speak up. You're too shy. Why don't you tell us what's going on? Believe it or not, there was a time when I didn't speak at all. And so for me to be at a place in my life where this is what I do on a day-to-day basis is amazing to me. Good morning, my love. I can't, ooh, I love your picture, girl. I love that photo. Yes, 2025, I'm here for you, and I'm ready for you. This has been one of the most difficult years for many of us. I think we had the hope that coming out and fully coming out of the pandemic, that things would be different and better. And I think that we are seeing the effects of pandemic living and still trying to adjust, still trying to figure out what this new world, what this new way of living looks like. And so I think for many of us, 2024 was that year where we were like, oh, I thought it was going to be better than this. I thought, particular things were not going to still be a thing. I thought we had eradicated that when we all needed one another, when we all were dependent upon how the way that we live and breathe impacts everyone. I thought we would be more harmonious. I thought, we all had these illusions that we were on a path um, for more community, more being, you know, aligned than we are seeing. And now we are seeing we still are not healed from that pandemic. I truly believe it's going to take maybe a decade for us to really get over or at least heal parts of us that were traumatized because of that experience. Thank you, darling. Yes, I wore the diamonds just for y'all. So thank you. I think we have sold ourselves short in recognizing that that pandemic was not just the pandemic, but everything that was going on from 2019 on. It's going to take a minute for us to heal the stuff that rose to the surface. I think we thought, okay, well, we no longer have to distance ourselves. We've kind of gotten COVID under control, although it's still a real thing. It's not the threat that it was for some. It is still a threat for many. So let us not think that, okay, we can just be out here in each other's faces and everybody's going to be good and okay. It was traumatic. I mean, a disruption, a global disruption is not something that we're going to heal from easily. And then we have the racial discord, and then we have the sexual assault allegations and information that are right. Like, all of this stuff is like this collective nausea and vomiting that happened, and we are still cleaning it up. We are still dealing with it. Yeah, I don't think any of us have really taken the time to take a collective breath to say, whoo, we went through that, y'all. We went through that together, and it affected us. It really did something to us. Or even ask each other, what did it do to you? What did it see? What did seeing millions of people being impacted in a myriad of ways, what did it do to you? And what is it still doing? What is it still doing? Yeah, listen, please, 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 please. Um, yeah, Friday, whoo, again, we could have talked for hours, and we did. And we did. And so I'm grateful that those of you who were able to tune into that, that we have that we have that to revisit and to rewatch. I will be rewatching it. I think throughout 2025 to remind myself of preparing for new experiences, because every new experience is new, right? And as you know, I love to say it's not hard, it's new. When we are doing things that we've never done before, when we are meeting people that never met before, when we are meeting versions of ourselves that we have never met before. Can you stop and think about all of the versions of yourself that have made an appearance this year that you didn't know were going to show up? I, have recently been showing up. Um, I don't want to say angry Yolanda, but definitive Yolanda, where some of the things that go on around me, I no longer have the patience for. So I just definitively end it. Definitively. And while I have met a version of her before, this version no longer needs to explain why. This version no longer needs to have a long conversation about why something is the way. I don't feel the need to explain myself, particularly when I feel like I have explained myself multiple times. Old Yolanda would continue to explain, wanting other people to understand where I'm coming from. I don't care. I'm at that point where if you understand me, great. If you don't, that's fine too. If you're willing to understand me and we can continue to have dialogue so that we're understanding one another, I love it. If you don't want to have dialogue so that we don't understand one another, I love it. And I love that for me, where I feel like I no longer have to explain myself to anyone. It's not necessary. There's this running joke at the center is all you have to do is just step into Miss Yolanda's office and it's magic and things will happen. And I'm consistently telling, stop saying that. I'm not magic. I don't know why it wasn't working with you and all of a sudden it's working. It's not me. It's maybe you just learned something in my presence. I don't know. But old me would have been, oh, that, yeah, it's the mag. I would have gone along just to get along. New me is like, don't, no, stop saying that. Stop doing that. And I love that for me. And so today, as we are completing a cycle, I desire to go all the way back to the beginning. Because when you have set a goal for yourself, whether it's a long-term goal, whether it's an immediate, I'm going to go, clean the kitchen and in 15 minutes I'll be done, whatever it is, it's always nice to go back to the beginning so that you can check in with yourself to see if you did what you say you wanted to do. Did you set an intention and was that intention fulfilled to your satisfaction? So we go all the way back to January 2024 when we first started the Power24 series. It really came about, because I felt that I wasn't utilizing my personal power in ways that supported my vision, my dream, and the things that I want to do. And so anytime you're talking about completion or you feel like you are coming to the end of a cycle, a season, or a goal, I think it's essential to go back to the beginning. And so I have been asking myself as of late, why did you begin this in the first place? Not just for this year, But why did I begin this YouTube Mama Meditation series to begin with? I've said more than once that it was a challenge from my business coach. But the reality is, if I go deeper than that, because I could have said no and we would have moved on to something else. Um, why? What was the intention? And for me, and it may be similar or different for you, I wanted to know why I felt powerless in situations that I was built for. Hear me when I say that. There are experiences that I have had in my life that I know that I have been built for, prepared for. I know who I am. I should feel complete and comfortable going into these experiences. But for whatever reason, I'm feeling powerless. And maybe this resonates for you as well. But that was the question that I kept asking myself after we did the inner child healing, of course, which is a continuous thing. I'm like, okay, you have all of this knowledge. You have all of this wisdom. You have done the work. You are self-aware. So why do you feel powerless? And I'm not talking about situations that are beyond my capabilities. I'm talking about things that I know that I am built for. And maybe that's a question that you ask yourself. Like, I was built for this. So why am I pretending or acting as if I don't know what to do? Why am I behaving in ways that make it seem like I'm a newbie, or that I don't have this experience, or that I haven't been, training for this my whole life? I have used this analogy before from the movie The Karate Kid, the original, not the remakes, the original, where, Daniel goes to Mr. Miyagi and he was like, listen, I see how you put it down. I want to learn karate. And Mr. Miyagi was like, yeah, you want to learn karate to fight. You want to learn karate to defend yourself. And that is not what this is for. This is a lifestyle. This is a commitment. And you're trying to get there the easy way. But I'm going to show you better than I can tell you. And so Mr. Miyagi had Daniel waxing the cars and painting the fence and doing all of these things that didn't look like it had anything to do with karate. And Daniel got fed up. He was like, listen, you have not taught me how to kick. You haven't taught me how to punt. You haven't taught me any of the mechanics of karate. And I don't want to do that. You essentially are playing in my face. And Mr. Miyagi had to show him, I'm showing you the foundation. I'm showing you the movements. I'm showing the things that should be automatic, because that's what karate is. It's a lifestyle for you to not to defend yourself, but to feel so confident that the way you walk, the way you talk would also be a defense for you against other people. But if that's not enough, then here are the physical attributes that you will need to defend yourself. What he was really teaching him is that it's not about the things you do with your hands, it's about what you do with your mind. And so Daniel had to be put into a particular energy to see that. And so here I am, living my life, doing what I love to do, but also recognizing that there are particular experiences that I am ready for, prepared for, built for. I have done my wax on, wax off. I have done the paint. I've done all of that. So why do I still feel powerless? My power is not a question. Your power is not a question. It's how is it being utilized? And I recognize that for me, physically, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, my power was going in places, in spaces, based upon my choices, based upon the choices that I'm making. It wasn't even about other people are doing this and other people are doing that. I know what is going on. I know what is required of me, and I am choosing to do everything but that. why. Here are experiences and opportunities being presented to you on a platter. I don't have to study anything. I don't have to, as I just told one of my children the other day, you stay ready so you don't have to get ready. I'm always ready. But when it comes time to execute, when it comes time to make those big choices, there are times when I feel powerless. And for me, a lot of that this year was because physically I wasn't feeling well. So I'm putting all of my energy towards that. Listen, right now, I don't feel physically well. And I'm thinking to myself, there have been times in the past where you have not felt physically well and it didn't stop you in the way that it did this year. It became such a focal point for me that it was difficult, challenging to focus on anything else. And I also recognized that I was a willing participant in that I gave so much of my energy and so much of my power to trying to figure out why I was feeling the way that I'm feeling, when the whole time the reason I was feeling the way that I'm feeling is because I'm not aligned with who I know I am supposed to be and what it is that I'm supposed to do. And yet I'm trying to figure out why I don't feel well because everything was out of balance. Everything was out of balance. And so the experiences that I've trained for my whole life are passing me by because I'm focused on something else. Oh, I don't feel well. Well, yeah, I've had that experience in the past, and I still was able to redirect my energies into the thing that I love to do. I don't know if I shared with you all while I was going through my spiritual life coaching journey. There was a time when I discovered a lump under my arm. And then all of a sudden, that became the focal point. Oh my God, what is this thing under my arm? And it wasn't just a thing under my arm. It was throbbing. It was hard. It was hard. It had heat to, like, it was an issue that needed to be addressed. And then it started to take all of my energy, all of my focus, and all of my attention. And I almost dropped out of my spiritual life coaching program because it created so much worry and so much concern. And so, not that it shouldn't have, it absolutely warranted that level of attention. But it became not just something for me to focus on, it became the most convenient distraction. It became a convenient distraction because then I didn't have to deal with all of my personal stuff. I didn't have to deal with what the program was requiring me to deal with. It really became, and I do not want to diminish anyone's experience of some physical issue. That's not what I'm saying, because absolutely I needed to know what was going on with my body. What I didn't know is unconsciously it became that convenient plot hole that allowed me to redirect all of my power and all of my focus away from the things that I wanted to do. And then the story started to formulate in my mind. Well, you didn't want to do that anyway. And, you that's not something that this is not the time for it. And that's not something, it's like, wait a minute, that's a lie from the pits of hell. I've never wanted anything more. I knew what I gave up and what I sacrificed to be in that program and to get into it. And then 6 months into it to say, well, I'll just do it later. No, no. We forget how dynamic we are. We forget that the possibility exists that not only can we deal with our personal stuff, we can deal with our professional stuff, we can deal with all of the stuff, not to the point where it puts us in overwhelm, but to the point where it says, okay, this is a priority, this is a priority, and this is a priority. So all that other stuff that is a distraction, all them other things, I can't give voice to that. I can't give power to that. I can't. And so that happened for me this year, where my physical state of being became such an issue that everything else took a back seat. It became an issue in this space. It became an issue last week. I didn't go on last week because I had a trip to the ER for not feeling well, which I have to say was very scary. But yet again, it's pulling me away from the thing that I love the most. And it becomes unconsciously one of those convenient things that seems to happen at the most inconvenient time. And I know for me, and it may not be true for you, I know for me that that is a historical thing. Since I was a child, every single time I got close to completing a goal, I would get sick or something would happen that would redirect my focus, my time, and attention. And what I now know, that I can be sick and still produce. I can be sick and still do the thing that I love because it's been done before and it will be done to the end of time. I don't think any one of us is really in a 100% state of physical well-being. If something is not going on with us physically, something may be going on mentally or emotionally or spiritually. It is very challenging to put yourself at 100% in all areas of life. And I think that anyone that says that may not be living in reality. The reality of this human life is that there are ups and downs in our lives at all times. And if it's not you, it's somebody you're connected to. Maybe one of your children is not well. Maybe your spouse, maybe your friend. It is a part of life. But what we typically will do is, as they say, throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's like, okay, one thing has happened and now we feel powerless. We feel like we can't do anything. And that is so contrary to who we are and what we are. This is not to put pressure on anyone that feels like, oh my gosh, here I am with this traumatic illness and I should be out here in my purpose doing particular things. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we have to become so self-aware when we recognize that there are particular things going on in our lives that are draining us, that are taking so much time and attention that we forget about everything else. Whew, I need to take a breath because there's something rising to the surface in this moment where I am thinking about my mother telling me a story about something that she always wanted to do, which is own a business. My mother always wanted to own a business, and in some ways she did. She sold Tupperware. She sold Princess House. She sold Avon. If there was something to sell, my mother was selling it. I remember one time my mother somehow got hooked up with some guys selling pocketbooks out of trunk. And the next thing I know, my mother would, anyway, the woman always wanted to have her own business, but it wasn't supported by my father. My father never supported her in this business. And I think I've told the story about, my mother had some money and she wanted to invest in a property. And my father was like, no, we're not doing that. We're going to buy this house. We're going to live a simple life and that's it. And then it got to a point where this property my mother wanted to buy expanded from a property to apartments to a community. And she would have to drive past this community every single day to a job that she hated. And I remember her saying, if we had invested in that building when I said, we could have been a part of that. Like my mother had mogul aspirations. Like she wanted to be a real estate magnate and saw that opportunity prior to it happening. And then when it did happen, she had to drive past her dream that was now someone else's dream every single day for 25 years. I don't know what it did to her mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. I know it probably broke her heart every single day. And I remember her telling me about that as we drove, as she would drive me past there, and she would point out, that's the building right there. It was for sale. She had talked to the man. The man was going to enter into like, she was ready to risk it all on something she was sure about. She just didn't have the support. And back in the 70s, many of you might be aware that she really did need my father's permission and support in order to do it, because there weren't many opportunities for women in those days to do those kind of things. But she saw the vision and she wanted to do it. And that was something that I thought about at the beginning of this year. It's like she was built for that. She knew it. She knew it was a sure thing. She knew it was going to be something great. So, but she felt powerless. And for many, reasons that are different from my own. But I have to ask myself, when situations or opportunities are presented to you and you don't feel like you are going to take a step forward, you are no different than what your father did to your mother all those years ago. When you're not betting on yourself, Yolanda, it's no different. And so how many of us are not being supportive of the things that we actually want to do and dream about? The things that we were designed for. Like, if somebody had a Lego set, like, mechanism and built you for this particular thing, you could not have been designed any more perfectly. And yet, there's still this feeling of powerlessness that comes over us. That's what I wanted this year to be about, for us to get to the bottom of, what is that? No one asked me to, go swim with sharks. I haven't been trained for that. I don't know what that entails. I don't know, what that would require of me. No one is saying we need you to go walk on Venus. I don't know what would, I don't know. But the things that I do know about, the things that I am knowledgeable about, and I know this is true for many of you, there are things that with your eyes closed that you could create, you could do, you could enter into, but for whatever reason, you're like, let me distract myself with 20 million other things. So I don't have to face that fear. So I don't have to face that doubt. And so that was my reason for starting Power24, so that I can investigate for myself and so that you could also investigate for yourselves. Where is my power going? Because again, the power is never the question. We have it. It's within us. It brought us into existence, placed there by the God of your understanding. It is not a question. It is there. Why are we afraid of it? Why are we denying it? Why are we getting caught up with all of the other things that, become convenient distractions? And so for me this year, it was the physical stuff. It certainly was, it became, I should say, the mental stuff, which is why I threw myself into therapy, because I could see how I was caring less and less and less about my own life and more and more and more about the lives of other people. That's an imbalance. And it has a root that I needed to see. And I'm grateful for my therapist, who gives me a level of accountability when we meet up. And it's like, okay, remember that thing we talked about last week that you said you were going to do? Why haven't you done it? What's going on? We talked on Friday night about having an accountability partner, about having someone in your life that's going to knock you on the forehead and say, hey, what you doing? You said you were going to be doing, now you have, because we can talk ourselves out of a lot of things. One thing I hope that we have in our lives are people who won't let us do that, who will call us to the carpet and say, hey, you said something else to me 3 months ago. Have you changed your mind? Have you are you doing something different that I don't know about? If we want to get to points in our life when we feel like we have completed something, and I'm not calling out all of my friends with ADD, ADHD who start something and move on to something else and start another thing and move on to something else, who get excited about things started and then you lose the excitement. And, I'm talking to y'all, but I'm not beating up on y'all because I'm right there with you. All of us who get excited about things, start them, and then that excitement starts to dwindle. Other things become a priority. Other things have our focus. And so then we are left with piles and piles of dreams and aspirations and goals that never get completed because we're looking for the next thing. We have got to do a level of self-examination to see why that is, why it keeps happening, and why are we so afraid to complete things? Why are we so afraid to see where things are going to lead us? Does it happen when it gets difficult? Does it happen when it requires you to be someone different? Does it happen when it requires you to say no to things that you've been saying yes to? We have got to take an examination, and that's what Power24 has been about. Why aren't you completing anything? Why aren't you where you say you want to be? How many piles of things are going to continue to get started but are never finished because your focus is somewhere else? And how are you a participant in that? Because we can certainly blame other people. Well, this is going on for this person and this is going on for that person, and I'm a this and we can certainly do that. I could do that all day long. Well, this is the reason why I haven't been able to do this, because I don't have I could do it all day long. But the reality is, if I am setting goals for myself, I have to figure out why they are no longer being completed, why they're no longer a priority, why they are not being worked upon, and then I have to do something about it. And so we've gone through figuring out where our power is going physically, figuring out where it's going spiritually, mentally, emotionally. Where are the priority of your thoughts going on a day-to-day basis? I guarantee you, and like we talked about Friday, I guarantee you for many of us, a lot of our thoughts are around other people's stuff. We're trying to figure out how to make life easier for them. We're trying to figure out how to make things happen for them. And this doesn't mean you abandon your family. This doesn't mean you abandon your responsibilities. Because if you created something and it's your responsibility to make sure that that thing is sustainable, is being fed, clothed, and then yeah, that is a priority. However, if there are things that are lingering within your spirit, within your consciousness, within your vision that just won't go away, I want to do XYZ. I would love to see what it would be like to do ABC. When do those things get to become a priority for you? And what actions are you putting behind it? Doesn't mean it has to be done today. Doesn't mean it has to be done tomorrow. I know there will be a lot of language within this next 2 weeks about look at the past year and why you haven't accomplished the things you haven't accomplished. I will say, take your time. But as you are taking your time, you better be devoting your time. Because if you do have another year that looks similar to the year before it, then you also have to look at your participation in that. You have to be accountable. We have to be accountable for where our power is going and where it is not, and tell the truth. On Friday, we talked about, well, what do we do when we're unclear? What do we do when we're feeling a particular way? Get very, very clear acknowledge and identify what is going on. You have to tell the truth. And so the second question to why do I feel powerless in situations that I was built for? The second part of that question is, so where was your power going? And I wrote some notes down. It's like, I lost a part of myself. I I made other people's happiness a priority, and I didn't pay attention to my own, or I was telling myself that I was happy about particular things when I really wasn't. And it's not on like a large scale where someone was using or misusing or abusing me. I'm grateful that I can say in my life experience, I have not been, as of late, let me put that caveat. As of late, I have not been manipulated. I have not been abused. I have not been misused. No one talks to me crazy. Like, I haven't been in an argument or a feud with anyone. I'm grateful for that. And that has been consistent, I would say, for the past like, I can't really remember having that kind of energy around me because of the boundaries that I have set with myself. Arguing with people? No. If I've argued with anyone, it's probably some customer service person that maybe I was nasty to first. I don't know. But the people who are in my day-to-day life, I don't have those kind of experiences. But I do recognize, not because of them, but because of me. I have no blame for anyone in my life. If I have found myself in a position where I have been giving more than I'm receiving, it's my fault. It's based upon the choices that I made, based upon the lack of healing in particular places in my life. I am grateful that at the end of this year, I don't have a list of enemies. I don't have a list of people that I'm never going to speak to again. There may be some experiences that I'm not going to engage in anymore, but not because of hate, because of harm, or because I was done wrong by anyone. I'm grateful for that, and I recognize how rare that is because I see it on a day-to-day basis. People are like, I'm cutting off this person, I'm cutting off that person, these people misuse, and I'm like, oh my gosh. It's so sad that you find yourself in that type of experience. That's not the experiences that I've been having as of late. Have I ever experienced it? Yes, and amen. Am I experiencing it now? Absolutely not. Because if I see it, if I smell it, if it looks like it's coming my way, mm-mm. I have boundaries for that. You don't get to talk to me crazy. You don't get to be dismissive. You just don't. And if I feel like that is the type of energy in your spirit, I know how to counteract that very quickly. And most of the time it's with love. Like, I've had experiences in the childcare center where maybe one of the parents wanted to get a little snotty or, have a little attitude. You're not mad at me. You might be mad at yourself. You might be mad at the boundary that I'm putting up. You might be mad at the policy that you don't like. You can be mad at all of those things. I know you're not mad at me. I, so I don't feel any kind of way. You might say something slick out your mouth. I don't feel the need to return that kind of energy because that's not who I am. But I absolutely will tell you, no, we don't do that. I don't do that. When you're ready to talk like a civil human being, I'm all ears. But if you can't engage in that kind of conversation with me, we just not gonna have a conversation. We're just not. I don't allow it. I don't allow it. And if I see it, I know how to ignore it because that don't have anything to do with me. You over there ranting and raving and acting a fool, you're gonna do that by yourself. That is a lesson that my mother taught me very, very early. So when you see a fool behaving like a fool, don't join. You go the other way. Because why would you? You might call me all kind of names out of creation. I'm not going to answer to any of them because I know you're not talking to me. Just because I know who I am. And so allowing other people to take me to places that I have no interest in visiting is not in my ministry, not in my spirit. I could never be in a horror movie because the minute you say, come down this dark hallway with me, I'm not going down there with you. You crazy? No. So, what I do recognize after this level of self discovery this year is how I willingly gave my power away. Whew. How I recognized where there were shifts in my power and I didn't do anything about it. And that happened a lot for me physically this year, where I recognized before I felt horrible, I recognized there was a shift in my energy and I didn't do anything about it. I didn't try to change the course of that, me feeling poorly. Just this last time that I went to the ER, it's almost like it was in slow mo happening where I could see this is not going to end well. Like I can tell that I'm not going to feel well after this behavior. Like I have worried myself sick this year. The last 2 months, I have been in a whirlpool of worry over choices and decisions that I knew that I needed to make to the point where it made me physically ill. I can look back on it now to say, well, that was a choice, unconscious as it may have been, it still was a choice. And I have to have that level of self awareness to do better. If I am not feeling well physically, I have to act upon it immediately. I am deserving of that. I don't care if it's an ingrown fingernail. Act upon it immediately. Do not let another second go by before I don't address my own physical discomfort. Because what happens when we do that is we send the messaging to our bodies that you don't matter and you're going to have to shout a little louder to get my attention. And that's exactly what my body has been doing all year. Oh, you don't want to rest? You don't want to eat properly? You don't want to move properly? Well, then I'm going to have to shout, scream, and holler for you to attend to me. Our bodies should not have to do that. We should not have to get into overwhelm before we decide that we're going to do something. We have to be proactive and not reactive. And so that's what I recognize more than anything else this year physically. I did not take care of myself in the way that I know how to do. And this is the thing, I already have the information. This wasn't new information. I chose to ignore it. I chose to ignore it. And so if we're going to ask ourselves, if we're going to go all the way back and ask ourselves, what was your intention? And did you accomplish what you set out to accomplish? I am grateful that I can say yes. As hard as it was to come to some of the realizations that I came to this year, I am grateful that I have gone through it. I'm grateful that I'm getting to a level of accountability with myself that I can say, let's look at all of the ways which you didn't do what you said you were going to do. And so, but that also comes with, let's look at all of the ways that you did do what you said you were going to do. And so I recognize that I showed up for people. Not everyone. There's a flip side to that. So I can say definitively that I showed up for people. Regardless of what my relationship with them was, regardless if they knew it or acknowledged it, that doesn't matter. Did I show up for people? Yes, I did. Sometimes to my own detriment. On the other side of that is I did not show up fully for everyone, particularly for people that I engaged in conversation with to say that we have a commitment. And that's something that I have to make amends for. I recognize that because my focus and attention was in so many different places. I wasn't able to show up for people that I should have showed up for. So that's the other thing that I learned in terms of completing this exercise of looking at where our power is going. I did not show up fully. I showed up for some, I didn't show up for all. And that's something that I have to make amends for. I recognize that this space, similar to what you were saying, Marissa, it allowed me to combat my fear and my doubt of myself. Y'all may not know it, y'all may not see it, but the level of doubt that is generated in this body is astounding. The amount of times that I have to convince myself that I am who I say I am is ridiculous. And yet, and still, here we are. Here we are. And so I'm grateful for the opportunities that I've seen through this experience and other experiences this year of where my doubt absolutely wasn't real, where my fear absolutely wasn't real. Doesn't mean that it wasn't there and that it's still not there, but I recognize that and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I met people who challenged me in ways that I wasn't able to challenge myself. We all have people that we are in relationship with that are there to challenge us. They may work your nerve, but they are supposed to be working that nerve to show you something that you need to see that you're not going to see in any other way. And I'm grateful for those people. They may not even know that they hold that place in your life. Their agenda might be different. Their agenda might be malicious. Their agenda may not be, but they're there to show you something. And I'm grateful that I have served that role for particular people. I recognize that there are people that I have been in their life for a short amount of time or maybe a long amount of time. I'm there to show you something about yourself, and you're there to show me something about me. And I'm grateful that we've had that experience. Sometimes it's over, sometimes it continues, or it takes a different manifestation. Ah, because as humans, we love to be done with stuff. We love for things to have a nice little beginning and a nice little end. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes the end doesn't come because there's still another lesson. Yeesh. And I'm excited to see what 2025 version of some of my relationships look like. What's that going to look like? I don't know. But I'm here for it if it's going to show me something that I need to see. But I'm also grateful that I know when I'm done with something. I know when I'm done. Marissa said, yes, that rebellious spirit. Woo! I'm so grateful that my grandmother, now, out of all of my grandparents, we typically have four. Some have more. God bless you. I only ever knew my maternal grandmother. My maternal grandfather and my paternal grandparents, they all transitioned prior to me being born or very soon after my birth. So I have no memory of them. I only know their names. I don't even know what my paternal grandmother looks like. I could look just like that woman. I wouldn't even know it. I've never seen a picture of her. Only know her name. Don't even know how she died, really. Don't know anything about them, which to me is sad. But so the one grandparent that I do know, she very rarely smiled. And I used to think she was mean. She wasn't mean. She was very loving. And so I'm grateful in a world that tells women that they must be smiling and happy all the time. I'm grateful that I had that woman in my life who showed me you don't have to be that way if that's not who you are. And so when people are doing particular things that are not pleasing to me, I'm so grateful that I have that look on my face that'll let you know I don't find anything funny in anything that's going on right now. So yes, thank the ancestors for rebellious spirits where you just don't put up with particular things. And I get that honest. And so I recognize that part of me is a necessary element to human transformation, how many of us can say that there are particular characteristics that we have that are necessary for the elevation of the human species? You are how you are for a particular reason. Most of us spend so much time trying to figure out what's wrong with us or telling ourselves there's something wrong with us when the whole time we are exactly what humanity needs. Let's stop doing that in 2025. Stop telling ourselves that there's something wrong with us or we need to be nicer to people or you need to be who you are for particular reasons until you're a different version. Some of us need to be mean. Even if that shows us that being mean is not getting us to the places that we would like to be. Sometimes you have to be uncomfortable so that you can see what comfort looks like, so you can aspire to something. Stop telling yourself you need to be all of these different things when who you are as you are in this moment is who you need to be until there is a different version of you that is required. Because if you are fighting your whole life to be something that you're not meant to be, that's a sad existence. And many of us have done that in the beginning of our life, the beginning half of our life. We were trying to be what everybody else wanted us to be and not recognizing I'm exactly who I need to be. And so those times in my life when I wasn't speaking up for myself, maybe it wasn't my time yet because I needed to develop my voice. And now that I have developed my voice, trust me, I don't have a problem saying who I am until there are experiences where I don't, which is exactly, again, why I needed to find out, why is this happening? This is not who I know myself to be. Why am I shrinking when I know I was built to grow and expand? Heck, I call my business Evolving Spirit. So why is my spirit not evolving in the way that I know that it can? I need to find out why, because it's not a question of my power. I got that. I already know that. Why am I not utilizing it is the question. Or it's being utilized. Where the heck is it going? And why is it going over there when I need it over here? It's like when, if you've had this experience, when you were younger and maybe your parent or someone was fixing something and they asked you to hold the light and it's like, why are you holding the light over there when I need it over here? It's like very much that. Why am I not shining the light in the places and spaces that I want to illuminate instead of shining it in the places and spaces that probably already have light? Like I said on Friday, my new phrasing for people is I trust you will figure that out because it's not for me. But I also need to ask myself, why do you think it's your responsibility to figure everything out for everyone else? And why are you participating in that? Whew. And I'm still unpacking that. Some of the other things that I am complete with and I recognize is that I have limited myself in the places that I didn't feel safe. Now, have I been in experiences that were not safe this year? Absolutely. It begs to ask the question, why were you in that space to begin with? But it also begs to ask the question, were you really unsafe? Or was it one of those, again, convenient things that I told myself so that I limited myself? You know, it's one of those, what came first, the chicken or the egg? It's like, was it unsafe so I limited myself, or did I limit myself because it was truly unsafe? I can say that there have been experiences for me, not just in this year, but in previous years, where I went into situations telling myself, it's not going to be what you think it's going to be. And therefore, I went into those things limited and continued to limit and limit and limit and limit, proving myself right. When the reality is, sometimes we don't know whether particular environments are safe for us or not. Unfortunately, that's part of the human experience where you might have to go into it not knowing. But also knowing that if it ever becomes unsafe, or if you find out later this is not what I signed up for, that you do have the capacity to rebuild yourself. I know that seems harsh. It seems like, why would you walk into a lion's den and then be shocked that you got bit by a lion? Well, sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you don't know what you're walking into. And sometimes that is the part of being a human that can be the hardest. It's like I have to walk into, like we talked about on Friday, I have to walk into a situation that has so much uncertainty. I don't know what it's going to do to me. I don't know how it's going to affect me. I don't know what I'm going to become. That happens on a day to day basis. We get in our cars, we go from point A to point B. We don't know if we're going to get there. We don't know if we're going to get there safely. We don't know if something's going to happen along the way. Life comes with a heavy dose of uncertainty. The trust and where you put your trust muscle is, I know who I am. So if I go into this and I find out later it's not the experience that I thought it was going to be, I understand that I have the capacity to repair myself if necessary. And that can feel, particularly I would say for women, that can feel like, here we go again. I got to put myself back together because of another disappointing experience, because I anticipated and expected things to be different. I think that is a lifelong human experience. Because if we don't, then are we really living? If we walk around in bubble wrap all of the time, telling ourselves we're protecting ourselves from this, we're protecting ourselves from that, if we walk around like that, then are we really living? That is a question that you have to ask yourself. It's like the thrill seekers, the people who consistently climb on something high, jump off of it with the hopes that the parachute will open. And they will tell you it's something in the free fall that they may not be able to find in day to day living. I find that in day to day living all the time. I don't need to jump out of an airplane, although it's something that I said that I wanted to do. I don't need to put myself in dangerous situations to see or to get that excitement, that thrill, because living is enough of a thrill. Life is filled with so many uncertainties and unknowns, but the one thing that I do know that I control and the one thing that I can pour into is how I trust myself. That, listen, even if we walk through this field and we step on a minefield that we didn't know was there, I have the capacity to repair myself because I've done it over and over and over again. And I will continuously be in that work. I'm in it for me. I'm here to repair me. I'm here to support me. And as selfish as that may sound, what I'm really saying is I am here to do the work that was created in me long before I came into physical existence, with the understanding and the truth that I am always protected, I am always loved, I am always going to be divinely guided. So if the Creator says to me, I need you to do XYZ, then my trust is not necessarily in X, Y, and Z is going to be easy. X, Y, and Z is going to come without any pitfalls. My trust is in, you got me, God. No matter what I come upon, no matter what I face, no matter what shows up, I can be repaired. I can be made whole again because it has happened repeatedly. All of the times that I thought that I was out, counted out, wasn't going to be here, couldn't move on, couldn't go on, I have always been taken care of. Always. Even when I didn't know it consciously and for myself. Something has cradled me, something has carried me, something has allowed me to see who I truly am and how loved I am and how supportive I am. And that does not end. That does not stop. It's not a transactional thing. Well, if you do this for me, then I'll take care of you. It is continuous. And I am grateful for that. Even in the moments when I know it doesn't look like I am grateful that no matter how many times I skin my knee, how many times I feel like I get punched in the face, punched in the gut, my heart is ripped out of my chest, something is putting me back together. Something is patting me on the shoulder saying, I still love you. You are still worthy. There are still things for you to do. And I'm here with you throughout the duration. And so that supports me when I feel like I'm powerless. That's not the truth. I may have forgotten. My attention might be elsewhere. But I am complete in the knowledge that I'm always taken care of. Even if I got scars and wounds and all of the other things that just come from living, I have been taken care of so well. So much so that I couldn't be sitting here saying it's true if I didn't have the life experience that demonstrates that. I couldn't tell y'all. I couldn't tell you that you are repairable if I haven't been repaired. And you couldn't believe me if you haven't been repaired too. You might think, well, I'm not put back together the way I was. None of us ever will be. And for that, I'm grateful. I will never be put back the way that I was. And I'm grateful because the way that I was got me into some of the situations that I found myself in. So, yeah, make a new me every day if you need to. Make a new version of me every second if it's what's required for me to get to the next second and the next second and the next second. But what we have to know is our truest power is our ability to be repaired because there is always something repairing us. The replication of cells that are going on in your body right now that you don't even know about. And even me sitting here feeling like my body is mostly fighting against itself, I can only at this point send messages to myself that sounds like, I know you making us better. And I know in order to do that, sometimes it feels like it is worse. Sometimes it feels like hell. But baby, when you building a masterpiece, it ain't easy work. It's not light work. And so some of the things that you may have gone through this year, like I said on Friday, when you start looking at them as spiritual opportunities, and I know most of us feel like, well, I don't want to feel like I've been dragged down the street ever again. Well, then you must not be ready to live because, baby, that is part of the experience. But so are the joyful moments. So are the beautiful experiences. And I've written those down too. We can't just continue to talk about how life has kicked us in the butt if we are not willing to talk about how life has raised us up from our knees. And I'm telling you what I know. I couldn't have told you this 2 weeks ago. I couldn't have told you this last week because I was in so much pain, I couldn't even focus on it. And there have been times throughout this year when I may have said things that I wasn't even believing for myself. That's the real tea. The whole time I'm encouraging other people, I feel like I'm dying inside. And I know that's true for many of us. We're out here with this face that's providing all of this goodness and grace and mercy to everyone else. And inside, we feel like we're crumbling. That too is part of the repairs. That too is part of the restoration that's going on. Because in order for you to say it to another individual, there's a part of you that has to believe it, or else we're all out here lying. But I would think that my life is evidence that traumatic things can absolutely happen to you, even when they're not your fault. and they can still impact you greatly, where you feel like you no longer want to participate in this life, and that can still be repaired and turned around for you to look at people on Sundays at 1:30 and say, you are worthy of every good and wonderful thing that this life has to offer, and then some, and something greater. I believe that for myself, and I believe that for every single one of us, whether you look like me, sound like me, or have lived the experiences that I have lived. That's not required. Because how dare I think that I'm deserving of something and then tell somebody else that they're not? How dare? How dare? Some more of what I am complete in knowing is that those parts of me that I ignored this year are deserving of at least a conversation about why. You know, there are versions of me, parts of me that I put on a shelf and ignored. They are deserving. I am deserving of a conversation with myself to say, why did that happen? Was it necessary? And is it going to continue? And so for some of those things, yes. Some of those things, the conversation is, it's no longer necessary. And so we're moving on to something else. And for some of those things, I'm so sorry I ignored you for so long. Will you please allow me to make amends, make it up to you? And so recognizing where your power has gone, it's not enough. You also have to have the conversation with yourself. What are you going to do about it? What actions are you going to put in place so that that doesn't happen quite as often, so that it doesn't happen again, so that you're more aware of when it's happening? All of those things. We can call them boundaries if you want. Earlier this year, well, maybe last month, we talked about creating commandments for yourself, where you are saying, thou shall not, or thou shall. Like, you have to have a set of standards for yourself to say, this is not what we're doing. How can I say that I'm standing on business if I don't really have no business to stand on? How can I say I'm not going to allow these things to happen in my life if I haven't even said them for myself? But yet I continue to allow them to happen. How can I be complete and know that I did everything that I wanted to do, or that I said I was going to do? How can I be complete in that if I'm not even clear about what those things are? Because what happens when you say you're going to do something, when you say you're going to set a boundary, when you say you're going to set a goal, when you say, I'm going to be different, I don't care if it's, I'm going to clean the kitchen today, or I'm going to clean my room, or I'm going to finally go through my shoes and get rid of the ones that whatever it is. If you say you're going to do something, if you intend to do something, how do you say that you have completed that if you're not very, very clear and specific about what those things are? So if you set an intention today, if you set resolutions, I don't really do resolutions. I like intentions. I like affirmations, resolutions where it says, I'm going to lose 20 pounds, blah, 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 blah. I don't really do that because I know I will move that needle every chance I get. I like to connect more with feeling, like I intend to feel free. Sometimes I don't know how that is going to happen, but I know what it feels like because I can tap into that. I may not have the particulars of how it's going to happen, but it keeps me honest. So if something is going on, if somebody offers an opportunity and I can ask myself, does this feel free? If the answer is no, then I don't do it. Right? But how can we complete anything Because understand that when you do those things, when you set a goal, when you set an intention, you are creating an energetic pathway. Your mind is listening, your heart is listening, your spirit is listening. All of the spiritual activity that goes on around, all of everyone's listening and in tune to the energy and the vibration that you are creating in your body. If I said right now, next year, I'm going to run a marathon, I am not saying that. I'm using it as an example. But if I say that, that creates an energetic pathway so that everything that I do and choose and the decisions that I make should be aligned with that pathway. When you veer off of that pathway and you start doing other things that are not aligned with that pathway, what messaging does it send to you? That you're not trustworthy, that you're not disciplined, that you don't mean what you say or say what you mean. So if we are out here creating intentions, I'm going to do this for next year, I'm no longer going to do that. Trust and believe that you have created an energetic pathway. And now your choices and your decisions, it's not about being rigid, it's about being focused. Your choices and your decisions need to be aligned with that, because if you continuously say one thing and then do another, you are also creating a vibration in your body, in your mind, in your spirit that you are not trustworthy, that you veer off the path all of the time. This is not about perfection. This is about intention. And if you have an idea of, this is when I know I am successful, or this is when I know when I've accomplished what I said I wanted to do, this is when I'll know. You can turn around and begin again. You can say, okay, we tried, that didn't work, I'm willing to try something different. You can do all of those things. But at some point, that pathway needs to be walked upon because you created it. Nobody's out here forcing you to do it, but we all do it. When we say things like, oh gosh, and I know I'm guilty of this, I'm going to call you, or we're going to meet up, we should go out. And if you truly, truly mean it, trust that everything around you is standing on that. But then you start to do things that take you further away from those things. I want to spend more time with family, and yet you're still working 90 hours a week. You created an energetic pathway and then you strayed off of it. And now you want to know why you're frustrated, why you're physically ill. You want to know why things aren't lining up for you in the way. And then we get to the point where we're creating all of these pathways. We've got 20 million pathways and ain't stepped on near one of them. And so what happens? Then you don't trust yourself. Then your word is no longer the gospel. You don't believe in yourself. And it's true for many of us. It's true for me. I have created so many things that I never finished, that I never completed. And so there is that energy of, Yolanda, you don't keep your word. You're not trustworthy. I'm grateful that in this experience, I can say, I did what I said I wanted to do. I may not have done it to the level of success that I'm happy with, but I stayed the course. Even at those times when I veered off the pathway, trust me, y'all, brought me right back to the path. Whether you knew it or not, you have been my accountability partner in this journey. And part of the journey is also, how can I be my own accountability partner? How can I put things in my life so that I mean what I say what I mean, and I'm not just creating, and abandoning the things that I have created. Like I said, you can always go back to the beginning and say, I had the best of intentions, and I can absolutely confess and acknowledge that I did not do my best in this circumstance. So let me go back to the beginning. and see if I can restate my intention, create another intention. But if we act like it didn't happen, if we act like we never said it, if we act like we never started it, if we just ignore it, then it just becomes another reason for us not to trust ourselves. And if there's anyone in this universe that I want to trust, it has to be me. God, I want to be able to trust myself. We talked about that on Friday. How do we practice trusting ourselves? By starting things and finishing them. How do we practice our intuition? By trusting ourselves, our gut, our feelings, our consciousness, our first thought. How do we practice tapping into our intuition? By not overthinking, by recognizing when we're overthinking, overanalyzing, intellectualizing, romanticizing, when we're just doing too much and we need to sit and be silent and really reflect what is going on, even when it's hard to do. There have been some reflections that I have had in the past couple of weeks that have been some of the hardest things to come to the realization about. I didn't say it was going to be easy. I didn't say it was going to be nice. I didn't say it wasn't going to require you to utilize mental and emotional energy that you just maybe don't want to use. It's going to require all of that. And you still have the ability to say, I want to go back and restate what my intention was. I thought it was going to be this, and now I'm seeing it's something else. But whatever you do, don't ignore it. Don't abandon. Don't neglect. Don't lie to yourself about the things that are meaningful to you. And if you recognize, like me, that you have consistently started particular things and not finished, or you started something and now you want something else, then surround yourself with individuals who will support you and remind you of the things that you say that you want to do. And, let me just say this as we go into 2025. And I had this thought this morning as I was sitting outside drinking my tea, which is something that I have not done in a while, but I now have to return to my repertoire of spiritual practice. I have a tree in my backyard. It's the only tree that I have in the backyard. And it sits as far back in the yard as it could sit. And I've watched this tree grow since I've been here. I've been in this place. It will be 10 years next month. And I've watched this tree grow. And right now, all the leaves are off the tree. And it's just literally standing there bare ass naked. And I recognize that part of the tree is going over the fence. Part of the tree is coming towards the house. And I'm like, you know what? I probably should cut the tree. I probably should cut it back because it's maybe becoming an inconvenience for my neighbors or for me, God forbid, if a strong wind comes and the thing blows down, it's becoming an inconvenience. And as I'm sitting there drinking, I was like, you know what? I don't think I can do that. Because here is this tree in its dormant state, right? All of the leaves have fallen off. It is not really doing anything but chilling. It's hibernating. And I'm going to come along at its most vulnerable state and start to chop it up, start to cut things off, start to limit it because it's becoming an inconvenience to me. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, how many times has it happened to you, Yolanda, where you were in a vulnerable state and somebody else thought this is the perfect time and opportunity for me to chop her up, do what I want to do, manipulate her, limit her, because she's in a vulnerable state and there's nothing that she can really do about it. And I was like, you gonna leave that tree alone because you know what that feels like. And so for many of us, as we are transitioning into 2025, we are in a vulnerable state. We're post-election here in the US. We're going into an administration who has already proven themselves to be bonkers. We're in a vulnerable state. Please, please, please be mindful of individuals, experiences, and environments that might be coming in to manipulate, limit you, snip you, cut you up, because you might be in a vulnerable state. You might be hibernating. You might be doing your own thing, being quiet. And here they come thinking this is the prime time for me to put my agenda on, to further myself. Please, even if they come with smiles. We are going into an uncertain year and an uncertain time. That does not mean that you have to be vulnerable to other people who see this as a prime opportunity for them to take advantage of you. Be mindful that even in your season of being dormant, of laying low, of regrouping, of transitioning and transforming, you are still powerful. That tree didn't need to do anything but exist, and I still see its power. I'm not about to cut your limbs when you are hibernating, dormant, and not bothering anybody. Right now, all the leaves have fallen. That tree is just standing there minding its business. How dare I come to chop it up, cut it up? So now I got to have a conversation with my tree to say, listen, when springtime comes around, if it looks like you are in places and spaces where you may not need to be, we're going to have a conversation about me maybe snipping a couple of your branches. I'm not going to do it now while you're sleeping. I'm going to face you while you're awake and growing, because maybe you won't grow that. I don't know. Maybe springtime will come and whatever is hanging over my neighbor's fence, there won't be any leaves on those branches. I don't know that. But I know what's true for that tree is true for me. I may be in a season of transition, of regrouping. Don't come to me to try to manipulate where I am in my journey. And so I offer that up to everyone. And so I am complete in this space. I am complete with Mama Meditations here on YouTube. It may live in the evolved community, it may not. I have yet to decide if that is what's going to happen for me, for us. For those of you who within the last 24 to 48 hours have joined the evolved community, welcome. I love you. I left y'all a little gift, a little word in there this morning. I am in the process of creating what I've been built for. And what I now know that I may not have known at the beginning of this year is that I have been built for this. I have been created for this. Everything that I have gone through has prepared me for this. If I have not been stepping in it mightily, that is on me. It's not on anyone else. And I now see that, I acknowledge that, and I affirm and I intend to walk into what I've been built for with confidence, with courage, and with the love and support of so many other individuals. So the Evolved community is live right now. This is what it looks like when you come in to join. It is free to join. There is an explanation on why I've created this community, of some of the things that are going to be happening in this community. There is an app that you can download so that you can have it on your phone. It operates similar to other social media applications. There is a feed. You can comment. You can chat. You get to see who else is a part of the community. There'll be questions. There's just going to be a whole lot of activity. And I have just expanded so that there is going to be coursework. Everything that I am and everything that I do is going to be living in this space. There are three different membership offerings. Everyone can join in the Valley. There is a paid membership that offers you opportunities in the Peak. The coaching that I am returning to happens in the Summit. And there are other resources and opportunities for all of us to grow. I am happy to be taking on admins and hosts. My daughter Asia is one of them because we need diverse voices and experiences in this space. And so, if you are already a part of it, say hey, say hi, don't be shy. And if you haven't joined as of yet, we welcome you. We welcome you into the family. And again, I am just excited about what 2025 has to offer and how I will be offering it. It seems like it got really, really quiet in the chat. I don't know if something is going on YouTube or not. Let me put something in here so I can make sure it's not me. My messaging to all of you is I love you. Simply put, I love you. I love what we have created in this space. I love what you have pushed me to become. And I am asking for you to continue to push me. On Friday on Marissa's channel, I said that my goal is to have 100 women. By the end of January, I would love to have 100 women in that space, in the Evolved community, learning, joining, and growing with one another. All right. Thank you, my love. Let me know because it got real quiet. Your beautiful self. That's my goal. And I believe that what I have been built for has been waiting for me. And the same is true for you. What you have been built for has been waiting for you to step into it in a mighty way. And if you haven't felt ready to do that just yet, that's okay. But still acknowledge it. Just say, hey, I'm coming. I'm going to get there eventually. And then make sure your choices and your decisions that you're making in your life are pushing you towards that. So if somebody asks you to do something and you feel like, well, this is going to push me in another direction, be honest and say, I might need to go on this off ramp. How many of us have ever taken a trip where we have needed to get off the interstate? Maybe you needed to go to the restroom. Maybe you needed something to eat. Maybe you needed to rest. There's nothing wrong with that. So earlier when I said, you're making intentions and visions and goals and it creates an energetic pathway, sometimes we have to get off on the next exit to do some things. Make sure that the things that you are doing don't compromise your integrity. Because listen, I'm in places and spaces right now that were not on the path, but I needed to take that ramp to do some particular things. And I learned something about myself along the way. So now that I'm getting right back on the interstate, now that I'm getting back on the path, I am asking and offering that you join me. Because trust me, we all know that some journeys are just better when you have other people along with you, particularly somebody reading the map that knows how to read the map, somebody who, if the traffic gets heavy and you can't reach for the GPS, somebody that can do that for you, somebody who's a great DJ. There's nothing like having somebody in the car with you when you're going somewhere and they know exactly what music to put on and you don't have to do anything. Somebody that might need to reach to the back seat. I'm showing my age now. To the cooler in the back seat. Remember when we used to have to pack food and drinks for our trips because there was no drive-through? I remember taking those trips to South Carolina and my mama would be frying chicken, cutting up a Sara Lee cake, making ham sandwiches, sodas, all of that. That I'm showing my age. There was a time that if you were going to take a long trip, you had to pack your snacks and your meals because wasn't nobody stopping to get what? No, we got chicken in the cooler. Cold chicken with a piece of bread, and there was nothing to heat that food up. You were going to eat whatever was in that cooler, and it was the best chicken you've ever had. When you've been in a car for hours and you're hungry, and you tell whoever's job, that used to be my job on the long journeys. I was the cooler girl. If my uncle was driving or my mother was driving and they said, I need something to drink, best believe I'm at the ready. I'm going to get you your orange soda out the cooler, wrap some paper towel around it, open it for you, and give it to you. Did not miss a beat. And so, if you want someone along for your journey, then the evolved community is here for that. I'm just so grateful. Did you notice that we didn't even have a meditation? Because I don't feel it's necessary. When I say I am complete, I am complete. And I trust that you recognize when you are complete with things. You recognize when you no longer have to stay in particular places or spaces anymore because you are complete in your spirit. Listen. Whoo! I don't even eat chicken anymore, but I can still taste that chicken in that Wonder Bread. Yes, although my family was more Stroman bread. Child, please. There's nothing like it. As they say, you youngsters don't know what good eating is. When you have been in a car for 10 hours with your legs sitting on top of the cooler, and your mom says, you say, can I have a piece of cake? And she's like, yeah, you can have a piece of Sara Lee cake. Oh my gosh. And ham sandwiches just never seem to be as good as they did when, because for many of us, eating in the car was taboo, except for when you were on that long trip. But yes, my love, whew, nothing like it. Nothing like it. And popping a soda, I don't drink sodas anymore, but I can tell you that something happened along the way where sodas used to be like liquid from the gods. Whether it was a grape soda or orange soda, it just never seemed to be as good as it did when you were in the car at night, when you were supposed to, otherwise you would have been asleep. But for whatever reason you awake and it's 1 o'clock in the morning and your uncle or your grandfather, your dad or your mom is pushing that Lincoln or that Cadillac or Buick or whatever it was, and you said, I'm hungry, and said, go ahead and get a piece of something out the cooler. Nothing like it. And so if you want someone along with you for the journey, then I offer that you join our community. It is continuing to grow. It is going to grow. I am speaking it into existence. It is going to grow by leaps and bounds because I believe that we have the ability to create spaces for ourselves that heal us, that support us, that love us in ways that we may not be able to find in other places and spaces. It is what I believe that I was built to do. And I'm grateful for those of you who have trusted me to do it in this space. And I trust that it will be even greater in this space and beyond. And when I tell you I'm excited about this like I haven't been excited about something in quite so long. And it's taken me time to get here. Even when I created it, I was not as excited as I am right now. As a matter of fact, truth be told, creating it scared me to the point where it felt like I was being forced to do it, even though nobody forced me to. But now it feels like something that I'm excited to do. And you'll be seeing a lot of activity over the next couple of days, the next couple of weeks. For those of you who are part of the subscription Now is the time to get the book. I'm going to give everyone until the end of January, and then we're going to start our spiritual book club. When I tell you it is the book that my prayer partner and I continuously want to throw across the room every time we read it. It feels like a chapter is added every single time we read it. And it has supported me in having a full relationship with myself and with God, because it asks questions, it provides. You have to come into the community to know what the book is, but we're going to be reading that book for the entirety of 2025. We may not read it from cover to cover. We might jump around, which I love that for us. I love the freedom that comes from doing things in a non-traditional way. It's just going to be good. So join us. I love y'all. I love y'all. I love y'all. I love y'all. And I'm grateful for that you were here. The channel will still be alive, even if I'm not coming on live. We're going to let it live for some time. But Sundays at 1:30, I guess y'all going to have to find something else to do. I don't know what that's going to be, but tell me about it. Tell me what you would like for it to be. That's another reason to join the community. Tell me what you want, and I'm going to listen. Because who am I to just create and not collaborate? So tell me what you would like to see. I've had great conversations with some of you already in terms of what you would like to see. Our good sis that was on Friday planted a seed when she was like, pull one of them cards. We might be doing that in the community very soon. There has been and will continue to be morning prayer. I have had to figure out a way to do that. So I apologize now if you have shown up for morning prayer and I have not been there. Technically, something was going on that was preventing me from doing it, but I didn't want to delete it before I figured that out. I think I have it figured out. As a matter of fact, I just increased some things on my end, technically, that may be supporting the morning prayer at 6 a.m. to start, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the Evolve community. You don't have to be present because it's an audio that I record. But if you want to be present, then meet me there tomorrow at 6 a.m. Like I said, I just purchased some more bandwidth or something. I don't know. So hopefully that has solved the issue. I love y'all. And I am here to facilitate you loving yourself in ways that you didn't expect. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my friends. I'm grateful for Beloved, who continues to be supportive in ways that I did not expect. Come to the Evolved community so we can talk in an authentic way that I don't feel like I can sometimes in this place and space. But if I ever do anything that is contrary to who you are, let me know. Let me know. I love constructive criticism. I love it. It feels loving. I don't take it as anyone trying to make me be something that I'm not. I take it as it is given. And so I'm grateful for that as well. So continue to love yourselves greatly. Continue to be good to yourselves for the rest of today and the rest of the tomorrows and so on and so forth. I've thought about maybe doing something on New Year's Eve, but I also feel like I want to contemplate and just be one-on-one with spirit at that time. Because if I'm going to transition into anything new, I want to acknowledge that spirit has been there the whole entire time. Remember that you are loved greatly and that you are loved well. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. And I'll see you in the Evolved community. Be well. Be well in all that you do. and know that I am rooting for you. Even if I'm not in this space, I'm still in the ether rooting for you. I love y'all. Have a great rest of your Sunday and a great rest of the year. Bye.